After the Dodgers lost the series to the Nationals last week, Yoshinobu Yamamoto made sure that they got their revenge, completing the sweep. He pitched his best game so far as a big leaguer. We're going to dig into that and a lot more. So let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. My co-host next to me, that's Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And Vince, the Dodgers were going for the sweep on whatever day it is. What day is it? Thursday? Man, it's a wild that I can't even tell my days apart anymore. Dodgers were up 2-0 in the series, going for a sweep. They put out their lineup that screams, well, let's see how hot we are. And, they got just enough runs to win this game, mostly thanks to Yoshinobu Yamamoto. A little bit of thanks to the umpire who you have a little bit of experience with, huh?
Yeah, I think he got into the majors for the first time last year. He's from my hometown of San Pedro. He used to umpire Little League games when my brother played and I was coaching, and then when I was coaching. And his strike zone wasn't my favorite strike zone back then. I almost got ejected a couple times from a Little League game. Not saying anything bad, just constantly chirping because his strike zone was like the first 2 innings of this game where it was like you didn't know what was going to be a strike or not.
Yeah, it is kind of funny that a guy who has been known for his bad strike zones since the days he was umpiring Little League has made it to the big leagues. But you know what? It did go more in the Dodgers' favor than against them. I think that was mostly because Yoshinobu Yamamoto was around the edges of the zone more than Mackenzie Gore was. And so he just gave the umpire more opportunities. And, and that's where you want to be. You want to be on the edges of the zone, just in or just out. And, it's harder to hit those ones, and sometimes you get the calls for the umpire. But this was Yamamoto's best start as a big leaguer for sure. He went 6 innings for the second straight outing and allowed no runs. I saw if you take out his first start in Korea against the Padres, since then he has a 2 ERA and a 35-5 strikeout to walk ratio in 27 innings. He's near the tops in the league in strikeout rate. Obviously, the ERA is still recovering from giving up 5 runs in 1 inning. That'll take a little while, but he is essentially the last couple of games. What we're seeing from Yamamoto is basically what we hoped for when the Dodgers signed him.
Yeah, and exactly. The 6 innings is the biggest part for sure. Last game, he did give up runs, but his defense didn't help him out as much. It would have been less. One was unearned, and the other run probably wasn't unearned fully, but could have been helped out. This one, he got right down to it, and like I said, it aided a little bit by the umpire, but if you're close enough to the zone, sometimes you get that, and until MLB changes the rules on umpiring behind the plate, that's what you're going to get sometimes, and I think that's kind of where he wants to live with the fastball specifically. The biggest talk about Yamamoto has been the fastball, and it is a little flat in the sense of it just kind of goes straight. And even at 96 and straight is pretty easy to hit for a major league hitter. But if he can move it around and play it off his other stuff, then that's where all the talent comes from. And that's what we're starting to see with him. He's starting to play it off his other stuff. Could be nerves, probably definitely played a factor early on, figuring it out, blah, blah, blah. But it also could be a matter of, him and this game was Barnes, but they're starting to figure it out together as somebody that throws a lot of pitches. And, we've seen guys come over, Yu Darvish has a lot of pitches. Now Yamamoto, Bobby Miller on this staff has a lot of pitches. And sometimes it's hard to kind of figure out which way to maneuver it. And now they've kind of started figuring that out. And that's good. It's good for the Dodgers, good for Yamamoto. the especially letting him go that next inning. I think he was at 79 pitches, I think, after 5, and or 80 something after 5, and they let him go the last one. And like we talked about before, him having 5-6 days off in between starts is for a reason, and that reason is to let him go deeper into games when he does pitch. And as long as he's pitching well, it's going to work out for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and he was efficient enough because, he got those 6 innings, still under 100 pitches, so there's not any lingering concern going, oh, do we have to give him another extra day off next time? Just go with the regular extra day off probably, which, the Dodgers don't have days off. I think they play the next 6 days, and so they may have to, do something, whether that is Walker Buehler, like we talked about yesterday, or, going a spot start or something, if they are going to keep Yamamoto on regular longer rest. But that would mean with the day off they do have at the end of the road trip, it would be an extra day if they do throw somebody else in sometime in these next 6 games. It will be I guess on the umpiring front, I'm interested to see the scorecard. I thought it was kind of funny that first one when Joey Meneses struck out looking. It was a 3-2 pitch, and it was at least 6 inches under the zone, maybe 8 inches. And it was just a terrible call. And Eric Karros started to credit Austin Barnes for the frame job, and then they showed the replay, and Barnes, he moved his glove 3 feet, up to the center of the zone, and Karros just stopped mid-sentence, nah, that wasn't framing. That was just bad umpiring. And maybe sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. To be clear, I would still much rather have a game where balls are called balls and strikes are called strikes. It does feel like a little bit of cosmic justice to have a game that went more in the Dodgers' favor, because there have been a lot that have gone against them so far. But Yamamoto, it's not like that made the game for him, because really that would have been a walk to Meneses if the umpire had gotten that call right. Beyond that, it's not like they were hugely consequential pitches. It was just, he was pitching to the umpire's zone, and that's smart. That's good pitching. As long as we have umpires with zones, you pitch to it. And just everything about it, it feels like you said, pitch selection and location, it feels like Yamamoto has kind of settled in as a big league pitcher and is no longer not overwhelmed. He was a big star in Japan. Obviously, he's pitched in plenty of big games, but it is different when you come to a new league and a new country and everything. And I think there was some jitters or whatever. And he's only 25 years old. No matter how good you are, 25 is still young. But it does seem like he's kind of settled in and is now not thinking of himself as a guy who's new to the league. He's just this is what I do now, and I can get anybody out.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch when he is kind of going, because he does have the movement and everything else that kind of comes with it. It was interesting. He's been around the same, but he's fastballs around 40% of the time. Or he's averaging 37% on the season. He was 41% yesterday. Curveball split are basically the same, around 27%, and then he has the cutter a little bit there. So, he's settled into what he wants to do. He started to limit the damage. He started to mix it up a little bit more, and we're seeing the success that comes with that. And they showed that after he made that play that it was coming for his head. They showed that he was the Gold Glove winner pitcher the last 3 seasons in Japan. So that one wasn't a matter of Gold Glove. It was just a matter of a little bit of luck and a little bit of getting out of the way helped him out. But yeah, it was funny for him to say. I think Robert said, he's like, when I went out there, what did you tell him, or what did he say? And he said, "Oh, I thought I was gonna die," or something like that.
I almost died.
Yeah, so
yeah, and there is something obviously there's some just reflexes and luck there, but Alex Vesia, how he gets turned when he pitches, he wouldn't be ready to make that play. Yamamoto does, not quite to a Greg Maddux level, finishing in a position to field your position, but he does finish a little bit more straight on, so he can be ready for that, because some guys just throw with their body so much and end up so wonky that there's no way they're getting out of that ball, out of the way of that ball. And but he's like, I don't need to get out of the way, I'm just going to catch it, and Rosario, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, right? I got nothing against Eddie Rosario except that he's destroyed the Dodgers too many times, and so it was good to see him get out like that. So the Dodgers swept the series, head to Toronto now. Shohei Ohtani is actually on a flight to Toronto. We're not going to talk about Shohei Ohtani other than his hitting streak got broken. But we are going to talk about a couple guys who were in this lineup and starting to wonder how many more times they can show up in a Dodger lineup. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom on DoorDash. Surprise her from wherever you are with fresh bouquets, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more to make her day that much better. You can pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Get her a gift card to her favorite coffee shop. You can't go wrong. Shop with savings that will make her proud. And with the Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal, with other fees, including service fee apply and also terms apply. I've had a Dash Pass membership for over 4 years, and I've saved a ton of money on delivery and service fees. It has literally paid for itself in my case. So order now and get everything you need for Mother's Day on DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail orders now on DoorDash. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Hey, we're back. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Especially want to thank our everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning, and you can make that easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can also go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It's a text message-based service where we text you our thoughts. You can text, have one-on-one conversations with us. It's a lot of fun, just a few bucks a month, with a free 14-day trial at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can also check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. And you can catch every pitch of every game if you can't watch it on TV or be there in person. Catch every pitch on SiriusXM or the SXM app just by searching for Dodgers. So this lineup, I kind of hinted at earlier, Vince. The Dodgers definitely didn't put out their A lineup. Day game after a night game in the middle of a stretch with no days off. It made sense for Will Smith to get the day off, which meant Austin Barnes was in the lineup, and a lefty on the mound kind of meant, right now they have their righties and lefties lineup, and Max Muncy doesn't sit against every lefty, but when he does sit, it's against a lefty, and Mackenzie Gore is a very tough lefty, and so kind of made sense for Muncy to sit, James Outman to sit, Gavin Lux to sit, which meant that we had Miguel Rojas and Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez in the lineup. And Kike hit really well. He had 2 hits and, should have had a third. He was robbed of a third by whatever first name Young, the national center fielder. I assume if he learns how to hit, I'll learn his first name because he's a defense first guy right now. But he made a great play to rob Kike of his third hit and would have been an RBI probably. But Taylor and Barnes, they definitely tailored and Barnesed. And, we've talked a little bit about Chris Taylor in previous episodes. He's now, I think, what is he, 2 for 41? I think he was, I saw he was batting 050. I know he only has 2 hits. So when he was batting 050, it was 2 for 40. And then he got out at least one more time after that.
He is 2 for 43.
And how many strikeouts?
With 21 strikeouts.
Yeah. So, I mean, he struck out almost half the time. I love Chris Taylor. We're big fans of Chris Taylor here at this podcast. And, Chris Taylor is part of the Vince Semperio brand. But ultimately, it's kind of hard to see him. I don't feel good when I see his name in the lineup. Do you?
No, we hoped, I guess, more so than thought, that hit the other night would maybe get him going. But realistically, that was a 3-1 cement mixer slider, and he only hit it for a single. So, yeah, he's, down bad. Like Dave Roberts said that actually the day he got the hit, he said he's in it right now. And, he didn't really mince words that Taylor, when he's not going right, he looks very, very bad. And that's where he's at right now. And, we've talked about how he'll have a leash because, the Dodgers are realistically still supposed to be successful. And the other part is there's not necessarily somebody behind him pushing. You could say Miguel Vargas, and that would be the one answer, that there is somebody in the organization already that's behind him pushing for playing time. And, Vargas is playing very well in AAA right now, but it's also a matter of, well, he wasn't as bad as Taylor is right now, but he also wasn't that great when he was up last year.
Yeah, but Vargas is only 24 years old. He's still a legit prospect, and he has 1,000 OPS in AAA. And it's like, there's not. I mean, I guess they could go the Michael Busch route, let him tear it up all year in AAA, and then trade him for prospects in the offseason. But if they're hoping that Miguel Vargas is going to be part of their future, it's hard to picture a better time to get him involved than when he's tearing it up at AAA and Chris Taylor is terrible. And whether that is an injured list stint for Taylor, I think we've been long enough now since Robert said it's not something physical that they could, they could feasibly get away with.
Wrist is real easy, man. Wrist is real easy, especially with his swing.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely swung and missed so hard that he must have tweaked something. And get Vargas backed up here, especially when we do have the lefties and righties lineup right now. And so there will be plenty of opportunities for Vargas to get some at bats. And, he's not going to be as good defensively at any position probably as Taylor, but he does, he can play the outfield. He can play some infield spots, and where, they could find a room for him and get him those at bats, because if he can hit at the big league level, then that's, even if he becomes a platoon guy with Gavin Lux, or whatever it is, if Vargas is going to hit in the big leagues, which I think he is, the Dodgers ought to find that out. And I don't know, like, I don't know what else anybody needs to see from Chris Taylor to know that he's not breaking out of this right now.
Yeah, you think it's not one of those things where he can swing his way out of it. It's one of those where he needs to go back into a cage and break down his swing and get back, whatever, tinker with whatever he's missing. And, they don't have the ability to do that while you're running into a major league schedule. You need a break for that. And, realistically, that's what it is. And, with Lux, we know that's a different story. Him getting the 150 ABs. I don't think they're going to wait that long for Chris Taylor. I do think that in the next week or so, if nothing drastically changes, that we might see something happen.
Yeah. And then the other guy who was in the lineup and didn't do much was Austin Barnes. And obviously, like Will Smith, every catcher gets days off. And we're not advocating, as much as we would love it if Will Smith didn't need days off. Will Smith needs days off, especially if they want him to be fresh in October. And, you're not going to risk that just because your backup catcher can't hit. But Austin Barnes, after starting the season, I'm doing air quotes if you're listening on the podcast, air quotes, starting the season hot, because he had 3 hits in his first 6 at bats or whatever. And then I think he was batting 400 after his third game. He was 4 for 10. Well, now he's 4 for 18. Which is, he's batting 222. He's got a 583 OPS. Like Austin Barnes is what we thought he was. Who was that? Dennis Green who said that? I know it was a football thing. Mm-hmm. That's maybe the best football poll I've ever had. I know fat guys' names, I guess, but no offense, Dennis Green, or the ghost of Dennis Green if he's dead. I don't know. But yeah, Austin Barnes is Austin Barnes. And unfortunately, 2017 Austin Barnes isn't walking through that door. And even 2020 for 3 weeks, Austin Barnes isn't walking through that door. Like Austin Barnes can't hit. And he will, when he's hot, he will make good contact for you sometimes and occasionally bloop in a hit. But when we're talking about, Miguel Vargas being there in AAA, ready to come up, well, the Dodgers also have Hunter Feduccia sitting there in AAA with an OPS over 1,000 or right around 1,000 and just 980 at least as of yesterday. I mean, he is tearing up. He's batting 313. He's got a 459 on base percentage, 521 slugging percentage. He bats left-handed, and so we know that Will Smith is, one of the best hitters in the league against left-handed pitching, and so it's kind of a bummer that you had to give Will Smith a day off today against a left-handed pitcher when, he's probably the guy on the team best equipped to hit Mackenzie Gore, but he needed a day off. And I think if they had a catcher like Hunter Feduccia, they might have given Smith the night off, a different day against a right-handed pitcher and let Feduccia hit. And Feduccia's on the 40-man roster. He's at the point now where, again, if he's going to play, the time is now. And like, he's not such a top prospect that you don't want to call him up just to be a backup catcher. I think that might be his role. But, if you had a guy who could actually hit in that role, you wouldn't dread having to give Will Smith days off,
Yeah. And the fact that it usually doesn't time up, in a day where just Will Smith gets a day off. It's on a day where Will Smith gets a day off, and then Chris Taylor's in the lineup, and then, everyone else kind of moves around. I mean, Max Muncy had the day off yesterday too. So I think they can do a little bit better at that, at the very least, to kind of hide it. And obviously we know that Austin Barnes isn't on the roster for his offense, but at some point, like, is it going to matter that he's not, like, I don't know. Like, everyone loves him. We know that, the players love him. They, whatever the case, pitchers might like pitching to him, but it's one of those where you can get by with it in the regular season. But then when Austin Barnes is taking key at bats, pinch hitting in October, it's not that fun.
Yeah, I said this last season. I've probably been saying it for a while. There's nothing that Austin Barnes brings to the table that he couldn't bring to the table just as well from the injured list. Sitting on the bench as a guy who's not taking up an active roster spot, but can still, be in the catcher's meetings and help, all that stuff. And I don't know if he's interested in that role. And obviously you can't just invent an injury, but, again, injuries can happen. And
we've been inventing injuries. They can't do it. We can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah,
you can't invent
plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
That's lingering.
A sprained hit tool. And so, you know what? We'll see. Obviously, the Dodgers have a history of not pulling the plug too quickly on guys, and it's worked out for them. And like I said last week, I just don't know that it's going to work out for either of these two guys because they're both well into their 30s, well past their prime, and probably not. I think what we're seeing is the culmination of their existing weaknesses that just get worse as the ravages of age take a toll on people. I mean, you Vince, you're 33 now. I mean, that's old.
I feel a lot different than I did when I was not 33.
Back when we started podcasting together, you were just a young buck, and I was the only old one here. Now, so, we'll see. I don't necessarily expect any changes immediately, but I think it's going to be hard to keep Vargas and Feduccia down if they keep hitting the way they are. So, and maybe legitimate injuries will answer those questions, and maybe it'll be less legitimate injuries, but one way or another, I think probably something. So we are going to end on a positive note because Alex Vesia pitched really well on Thursday. Micah Grove has pitched really well lately. We're going to talk about them and the bullpen in general. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 on your first bet, bonus, win or lose. So you don't even have to be have a hunch or anything. Just place a $5 bet on anything if you're a new customer on FanDuel, and you win. Great, you win. You lose. Guess what? You still get $150 in bonus bets. Either way, you get the bonus. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, we're back. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Especially want to thank our everydayers. You can become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. Easier to do that if you subscribe wherever you're watching and listening right now. You can also become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, the 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. And you can catch every pitch of every game on SiriusXM or the SXM app simply by searching for Dodgers. And if you want more Dodgers content, then if 5 episodes a week from us isn't enough for you, after most Dodger games, you can check out the Locked On Dodgers postcast, which is hosted by Pete Fox. As Vince mentioned yesterday, Pete's got a different a viewpoint than us a lot of times. And so, if you find yourself listening to this and yelling at us about how stupid we are, you know what? Pete you might enjoy Pete's stuff. And if you find yourself listening to agreeing with us and wishing you could tell somebody how stupid they are, then check out Pete and maybe you can yell at him. Either way, and sometimes he'll agree with us. You know what? It's not always, he's not totally different than us, but check that out. It's on Locked On Sports Los Angeles, or it's also on our podcast feed to listen to on the audio. So Alex Vesia pitched on Thursday, Vince, and struck out 3 batters in his one inning of work. He did give up a weird, fluky infield. Actually, I don't think they even gave him a single. It was just an error on Vesia. Little squibber off the end of the bat that was a foul ball, and then it curved back in to fair territory, and Vesia tried to pick it with his glove and just flip it to Freeman and never really got it up into his glove to flip it. So he just kind of rolled it past Freeman into right field a little bit. And Vargas ended up on second. I think it was Ildemaro Vargas ended up on second base. But ultimately Alex Vesia struck out 3 batters that inning, just kind of a dominant inning. And it's kind of continued a trend, as much as we get heartburn when Alex Vesia comes in the game, the fact is when he's throwing strikes, he's still really good. And we saw that like his first year with the Dodgers a couple of years ago, he struggled a lot. And then he went down to AAA and he just struck everybody out, and he came back and he was dominant in the big leagues after that. And the big issue, I think he's got 10 walks this year in 13 1/3 innings. 2 of them are intentional walks, so really 8 walks. Although if you put yourself in a position where you have to intentionally walk guys, that's at least partly on you, but somewhere between 8 and 10 walks. Both of those numbers are way too high for 13 1/3 innings. But he's got a ton of strikeouts. And when he throws strikes, like he's still really good, and to the point where I'm starting to think, you know what, maybe Alex Vesia does have a chance to be a actual key contributor to this team.
Yeah, the good is the good. And with him, it's obviously that's not the issue. It's the bad. And, he's been better as of late. He's, made however many appearances he has now. He has 7. No, not 7. He has 13 games pitched, 13.1 innings. In those 13 games, only 2 of them have had clean, not innings, but clean outings where he hasn't allowed a hit or a walk. And that's where, as a reliever, it scares you. A 1.28 whip, and regardless of what the ERA is, you're getting a little bit lucky. He's not necessarily always pitching himself out of it too. Sometimes it is a little bit of luck, and it's still scary. But the good thing is that he's not giving up runs, and the other part is that's could be bad, but also good is if the luck does start going the opposite way, then we'll learn, okay, Alex Vesia is not a guy that's going to contribute to this bullpen. So it's one of those where he's not going to be able to sustain this luck the entire year. At some point, we're going to see, okay, is Alex Vesia actually pitching well, or is Alex Vesia just getting lucky? And I think it's been on the side of pitching well, but, it's also a matter of he's not secure, or we're not secure enough to feel happy when he comes in yet. But it's definitely improving.
Yeah. And it really will come down to cutting down those walks, because more than half of that whip is the W part of whip. The H part, he's doing pretty well on 7 hits and 13 1/3 innings. We'll take that. Another guy who's been pitching well, and I'm nervous to talk about this, Michael Grove. Last time I said on this podcast that I was starting to believe in Michael Grove, he immediately sucked. That was at the end of spring training. And then he was just terrible to start this season. And so I'm not going to say I believe in him. I might imply it by some things I say, but I'm not going to say it. His slider looks really good lately. And as he's leaned more and more on his slider, he's now, since he gave up 2 or 3 runs in that first inning that he pitched in that game against the Cubs in Chicago, he then pitched 2 scoreless innings then. And then he hasn't allowed a run since then. In something like, I think he's now at like 8 or 9 innings straight of not allowing a run. And 9 innings is still a small sample size, but when you're a relief pitcher, it's over the course of several games. Like, it's hard to go that long unless you actually are a decent pitcher. And so it seems like when he's leaning on the slider like he should, and pitch selection and all that stuff, he's got potential to actually do some stuff.
Yeah, to me, Grove feels more sustainable because his stuff is better. And he, for whatever reason, sometimes the stuff doesn't quite work out or he misses the spots or whatever the case. And I've already been an advocate of him being a 1 inning reliever, but he has had 2 outings over 1 inning on this little streak he's on. He went 2.1 scoreless against the Twins, 3 scoreless against the Nationals. But in between that, he had one where he just came in and got 1 out. He came in another one where he came in and got 2 outs. He wasn't the best one because he did give up a hit and a hit by pitch, but he finished the job. And then he pitched the other day and got 1 inning, did give up a walk, but strikeout. And for me, his whip is higher than Vesia's right now at 1.33, but his whip was as high as 2.57 when this month started. So it's only gone down since then. His ERA was 13.5 when this month started, and now it's at 6. So for me, his stuff feels like reliever stuff. And I do think, one, if they hopefully don't need him to make any more spot starts because everyone stays healthy, that's a good sign. And 2, I would like to see him more in a straight reliever role, though, because I'd like to see him back-to-back or 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 because, to get the innings you need for a regular season, yeah, Michael Grove and Yarbrough are going to be fine in a long relief role. They'll hurt you sometimes and they'll be good some other times. But realistically, you're not going to need that long reliever role in October unless that's the way you're going. You're saying, okay, my starters are only going to give me 4 or 5, and then we want to bridge that gap to the end of the bullpen. But realistically, I wouldn't recommend going that route.
Yeah, and he, in that 9 1/3 innings, 0 runs, 2 hits, 3 walks in those 9 1/3 innings. Like that plays. His FIP is under 2 during that time. Like it's legitimately, and his ERA has gone from, well over, it was around 20, it was over 21 after his second game. After that 3 runs of 1 inning against the Cubs, it was back up there around 15, and now it's down to 6. 6 ERA is nothing to write home about, but I think about, and this is remember, this is just an example, not saying this is what I expect him to be. I'm old enough to remember when Eric Gagne was a crappy starting pitcher, and then they found his role. And again, I'm more talking about finding a role for a guy who has good stuff. I don't think that Michael Grove will have 52 saves next year. But I do think,
I don't think he can get away with what Gagne was doing either.
Yeah, Gagne may have had some help, but Gagne didn't have the stuff to be a good starter, but he did have the stuff to be a very good reliever. And even if Grove, doesn't have the stuff to be quite as good a reliever as Gagne, I do think that, I think that they can figure out what his role is that he's the best at, because he does have good enough stuff to fill some role on this team. So
yeah, and I'm fine with him being a reliever. I would prefer not to go the multiple inning route, but if he's pitching well and it continues to be well, then that's just what it is.
Yep, and results is all that matters. So I think we're done for today, which means we are done for this week. Dodgers are in Toronto this weekend for a fun series against the Blue Jays. We will be here on Sunday night to wrap up all of that for you, talk about hopefully some, another series sweep. Why not? I think that's everything. So thank you for making us your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being an everydayer. If you are, please become an everydayer. If you're not, you can become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, and listen to every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. Our DMs are both open over there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Have a good one.